one. Is this me now?
No, Alex. He'll introduce you.
Sorry.
So we're going to let everybody kind of filter in and we'll get started here in the next 2 minutes or so.
I can just hit, oh, looks like we hit it middle.
That's Laura.
So, hello everybody and welcome to the Etchells Fleet 13 Zoom Bowl. We thought that instead of having the regatta, we would have a webinar. I'm just kidding. But, you know, obviously we're under some pretty bad circumstances at the moment. And at North Sales, we've spent a lot of time putting together this educational webinars for everybody in various One Design classes. Today, we're going to be talking about the Etchells, obviously. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce us to our fearless leader, Charlie Mann. Charlie, are you there?
I'm here. Am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Charlie, what do you want to promote in our fleet?
So, as you can see, I've got a little bit of an agenda here. It won't take very long. First, I just wanted to wish everybody well. Hope families and communities are safe and healthy, and crazy times that we're all enduring here, especially no sailing and such. But I was going to start with just a couple of quick notes on the Orca Bowl, which is, I believe this would have been the 28th annual, which is pretty amazing. I don't want to infringe on any trivia that Marnie might have come up with, but I did want to mention that part of the Orca Bowl for the last 14 or 15 years has been Kel Hestehev and Diane doing, of course, the famous Orca Bowl barbecue. I spoke with Kel today, midday. We haven't seen him for a bit. Kel's been, in addition to all the aches and pains and groans and grunts that we all have as we age, Kel's been fighting some other health issues too, and said that he would be very appreciative of any thoughts and well wishes sent his direction. We hope to see him back at the club soon, but he's been having his struggles. This is a quick story. You know, we had a barbecue for the February. The last racing event we had is Etchells, and I stood in for Kel, who would have been doing the barbecue that Marnie so nicely arranged. And Kel was laughing, asking me if I still had any hair on my forearms. And no, most of it got singed off. It's a hot job that Kel has done every year for, like I said, 15 years, multiple times, which is great. I'm not going to really speak to when we can get back to regular regattas. There are communications coming out from Brian Thomas and from the sailing office and such, and you can all read those on the postings. But of course, everybody wants to get back to sailing as soon as we can. Specifically, what I wanted to say regarding that, though, is that right now we can only sail with household members, and there's no gatherings beyond that. And I was talking with Jeff Johnson a couple of days ago, and he has been brainstorming, trying to come up with ideas. And one was to, I'm not going to do it real justice, but we'll get a communication out sometime soon, would be to set up a course using existing buoys on the bay and allow 1 week for any boat using the same household rules that the club's endorsing right now, to take their best shot, or shots, I guess, at tide and wind and daily conditions and such. Start an app, doing a 360 around a buoy, and go sail a course on the bay. Come back, finish with a 360, and then turn in their time. So something that we could do, and hopefully we'll come up with more ideas also. I did just want to make a quick note. Hopefully people are checking their boats. I heard that there were at least 2 boats who found that they had wasp nets, hornet nests under their covers. So a bit of a surprise, but if you haven't been looking, I know some people have been down on their boats, taking advantage of this downtime in sailing to work on their boats, but it'd be worth a check. Many of us have signed up already, even though we're not sailing, for fleet membership and international dues and the rest of it. Hopefully it'll all do that. We've got things to do. The fleet's in sound condition, but not everybody's signed up. I'm sure we'll come up with a alteration to the April 1st rule, since nobody's sailed since February. But do complete your fleet memberships. And then really the only other thing is to say thanks so much to the North staff for tonight's Zoom Bowl. Also, you know, everybody's trying really hard down at the club, the staff and the non-staff volunteers, our board. Everybody's really trying to make this whole thing work. Hopefully we can all be a part of that. So I wanted to give a shout out to all the people that are trying to keep us engaged and involved while we're waiting for the our regular activities to open up again. So it's great that, I don't know how many people are here tonight, but I think it's great that we've got a little something going on, and I'll hand it back to you, Alex. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much, Charlie. And we're all really looking forward to getting back out on the water, that's for sure. So tonight we have a very special presentation with Jeff Madrigali and Eric Doyle. Unfortunately, Eric has gone through some technical difficulties with his internet, so we're going to get started with me and Madro. Madro, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Cool. What's your dog's name, Madro?
Well, that dog there, his name is Callie, but she's no longer with us. We got a few other dogs. I could show you dog pictures all day, but that's not what we're here for.
All right. Well, we are going to talk about these new Australian jib lead setups. I can personally attest that Madro's installed the jib lead system on the boat that I sail with Argyle. It's great. It's very different from the traditional jib leads that we're used to having. And then we'll finish up with some fun trivia that Marnie has kind of put together. So I'll just kind of let you run with it, Madro. Here's the Magpie, assumably sailing in Miami.
Well, yeah, this is kind of dovetails onto the webinar we had a few weeks ago about the Australian setup, and basically these boats have been pretty successful and looking very closely at how they were doing it in Corpus, and we've been kind of trying to incorporate that as we've gone along here in the next few regattas. See a lot of boats sheeting farther inboard now. Initially, people were, years ago, were sheeting on the edge of the cabin house where the track was either athwartships or fore aft, but it was right on the edge of the cabin house. Then a few years back, people started pulling it in just a little bit more. Well, the Australians have kind of pulled it even farther. They developed a new jib design, which is a little straighter in the back so that you can pull it in more without closing the leech off. And then they're sailing the boat with a lot more rake. The combination of all this has netted a boat that basically goes about the same speed and points higher. And so as people have been trying to do this more and more, we've been kind of incorporating our old hardware into trying to make this happen. So this is a good illustration of what most people have been trying to do up to the new systems that we run now. So if we could blow that up a little bit, Alex, to get really close to that clue. This is the
Unfortunately, we don't really
we
have the
don't.
ability to zoom in now. But here's a better illustration of it a little bit more close up.
Okay, this is good. So this is actually Scott Kaufman's boat in Miami. And this is how most people have been doing it up to these new systems. So they're on the outboard track, which is a thwartships track on Scott Kaufman's boat, and that's doing the up-down. Then they're pulling it inboard quite a bit farther than the edge of the cabin house with the in-hauler, all the way in there at the mast. We can get the clue inboard like this. The hard part though, is getting the sail lower. Because the distance between the outboard and the inboard spots is so far that as you load it, it tends to go up, and you have a hard time holding it down. So what you do is tighten everything up, and then the loads on those lines get incredibly overloaded just trying to hold the thing down because the leverage is so poor from these off angles. So, and if you adjust one little thing, then everything else needs adjusting, because you want to go in a little more, you got to let the outboard off and go in. And if you want to go up in the halyard, raise the sail up, all these become complicated and the geometry is just wrong. So these new systems have been developed to try to correct this situation. The big problem we have is the cabin house has a notch there. The deck is low and then the cabin house is higher, and we're trying to sheet somewhere over it. And so we have some new systems, and there's a bunch of ideas going around in the class with some of the guys rigging different ways. Why don't we switch to the next slide, and we'll try to see how we can support the clew of the sail over this spot. Now, the reason this is working is, one, we're bringing the sail inboard, and that's helping, but we're also lowering the sail. And like most people have eliminated the blocks between the lead position and the blocks on the clew of the jib to save space. And when we do this, we can drop the sail down the headstay. This has been proved to be one of the big factors in why this is working. As the sail goes down the headstay, it goes forward because the headstay slope is not directly vertical. And as it goes forward, the leach of the sail is moving forward away from the spreaders and away from the mainsail, basically opening the slot. And I've noticed Ben's sailing this way even a few years back, where his jib was just boned down on the deck, much lower than everyone else was carrying it. This seemed pretty good, especially in the breeze where he had a nice edge on everybody. So I think this is one of the main reasons this whole thing is working. And to get the sail as low as possible, you do have to eliminate the clew blocks and run your jib sheets through the sail. This saves a lot of distance. You can probably drop the jib a good 2 inches if you do that. So here's a picture of Argyle's boat, and what we've got here is a ferrule system so that we can save space. The jib sheet goes from the fine tune on the side of the cabin house through that ferrule, which is the main one between the two through deck spots, which are holding that ferrule. And it goes up through the clew of the sail, back through the ferrule, over to the course lead block, which is there, and then over to the jib sheet cleat. So you can still run it coarse tune and then fine tune like you have been, but the real advantage is you can get the sail lower and inboard. Now that ferrule is adjusted by 2 lines, one inboard and one outboard, and if you ease one and pull the other, you can move it in, or if you ease the inboard and pull the outboard, you can move it out. And if you ease one or both, you can let it go up or down. So you get a full range of positions here. Let's switch to the next slide. You have one of...
So Madro, before you move on, why don't you talk, like, I remember in Miami very specifically, you know, we had just made the switch to the Australian setup. And something that you told me really struck with me. You said with the Australian jibs, you need to have more inboard sheeting capabilities. And you kind of grazed over that, but it's really important that if you do get these jibs, you have to have the ability to pull the sail inboard. And you said that you gain about 4 inches of inboard sheeting with this system as opposed to traditional leads with just an in-hauler. Can you talk a little bit about why that's so important, and spend a little bit more time talking about the sail and why you have to bring it inboard?
Okay, well, the Mal jib is what, they actually have a couple of jibs that they've been running with this. The light air sail is called the Mal. It basically is about very lightest air up to about 15, 16 knots. It's straighter back than the LM2L and can be aggressively in-hauled without completely closing the lower leach off. But what's really unique about it is we're getting the bottom of the sail in very straight, a little straighter on the foot, much farther inboard, but the top of the sail is always very twisty. So we're always open in the head with this sail and closed in the bottom, and that's been working very, very well. But to do that, you have to have the ability to put the clew where you want it. And just pulling it on that in-hauler on your old system, it ends up bridging a spot that is unsupported. So it's very hard to duplicate the spot, and it's very hard to hold it down. It's very hard to get that lead low enough. And like I said previously, if you get the lead lower, you're able to drop your jib lower. And when you drop your jib lower, you're moving the wholesale down, which is moving it forward. And we have a limit on how far forward we can put the head stay, but on most boats, that's a max forward position. Nobody has them back there as far as we can put them forward. This is a way of moving your jib forward more, which has proven to be pretty good. And so
Yeah.
let's look at a few different ways that we can support the sail in this new spot. And the new spot is typically like 60 mils in from the edge of the cabin house is about where the clew position wants to be. That's a pretty normal spot. Sometimes you're in a little more, sometimes you're out more. You can always go back with this system to where you were, and you still have the ability to support it farther inboard. Here's another idea from Dog. This is Dog's boat in Cows. He just put this on his website. This is another way of doing the same thing. So what he's got here is a thwart chip track that he's built a support for, and he's just going to run this thwart chip track in and out, and then he has the standard line that runs forward, which that block will rise up and down, and he'll have an in and out position of that car. And that the advantage of this system I see is being very easy to duplicate a setting. If you have a inboard outboard spot on that lead, you could obviously mirror that, and then an up down position, and you can pretty much get back to the same spot very easily. The thing I don't like about it is with the blocks there, and because the track is up on top of the cabin house, you lose some distance. So his turn point for the jib sheet is going to be higher than the ferrule system, which is going to cost you a little bit of ability to get the sail as low as you possibly can. You're trading that off with probably a pretty nice system for the ability to make it go in and out and the ability to raise it up and down. It's going to be very functional and easy to operate. I'd say if maybe for some of the less professional crews, that this could actually be a better way to go, because it's very simple to operate. It's just one line for the up down and one line for the in out. When we start running the system we were showing previously, you've got to operate two lines for the up down, which is also a combination of the in out, which is a little more complicated. So this is a simple system. This is one way to do it. Let's switch to the next side, and there's a shot of the latest Australian system from Richie Allison. I think we have that one.
This one's my favorite.
Okay, so this is, and he's evolved to this off of a lot of different things. He started with a slot in the deck, and then he's going back and forth. But in that first picture of the Magpie, he wasn't running this system. He had the in-haul at the mast, and he had the up-down on the outer, and he was bridging the area. He didn't like it, so he's been working it, and this is what he's come up with. And there's some good things about this system. In comparing this shot with the previous shot of Argyle's boat, the inner hole is a little farther inboard, and the outer hole is a little farther outboard, giving him just a little more range for in and out. And then he's eliminated the in-haul on the sail altogether. So there's no more in-haul. If you want it in, you just bring the ferrule in farther. So that ferrule is operated on two lines. You ease the outer and pull the inner, it goes inboard, and vice versa. And if you let one or both out, it goes up. And if you pull one or both in, it goes down. And you can get it pretty low to the deck and adjust it. Now, the other big change to eliminate friction is that the fine tune is very similar to what he had before, but the entry of the fine tune goes through that block on the top of the cabin house instead of the side. This eliminates, especially when you're shooting farther inboard, of the fine-tuned jib sheet having to go around the edge of the cuddy, thereby eliminating a lot of friction. So he swears that it's just a lot easier to operate with it up there. And as this thing's evolved, I think having it up on top there would be advantageous. And he's done one thing even farther. Instead of putting a cheek block on the top, he's just cut a big square hole in the boat. Then he's lashed that block to a hole through the fiberglass, which you can see that block being held by that little piece of Spectra. The reason he does that, he wants that block to articulate, that fine-tune block. So when the thing goes in or out or up or down, at whatever angle it is, it'll always be a fair lead on that block. I think it probably works pretty well. I think if you just put the cheek block that you had on the side on top, it'd probably be about a push. The other thing he's done is, instead of having a cheek block, which was mounted, he's gone to a ratchet block, which is on that Spectra lead as well. And then if you notice, he doesn't have a cleat top on the top of his jib sheet cleat. He says he likes that because a lot of times he'll be up on the bow putting the pole away, and he'll want to have the jib sheet in his hand up there, and he can, wherever he walks around up there on the bow, that thing kind of follows him, and he'll have a nice fair lead to where he's at. But I think you could still operate it the same way with a cheek block there and a ferrule on top of the cleat as well. I'm not sure I'm a fan of that, but that's why he runs that way. That's a nice ratchet mounted block though, which is pretty important, so that when you're tacking, that it doesn't stay on the ratchet function, which creates friction, and on light air, the jib sheet won't go from one side to the other very well. So that's the Australian system. It's not that different than we're running on the 1481 with Tom's boat or on Argyle's boat now, but the main highlight difference would be the positions of the two holes, which he's got the little red arrows on right now. They're a little farther inboard and a little farther outboard, and which gives you range in and out, but you also are spreading that distance more, and it gives you less up-down control. Let's go to, you have another picture of the Argyle boat inside. We can show what's going on in there. Whichever system you run, if you're running the holes, you need to have a purchase that operates them. This is Argyle's boat, and you can see the inner and the outer hole on the, say, the port side there, coming down, and then those are both 8-to-1 systems. Now they're anchored between the knee and the bulkhead, which is kind of a nice place to put it because it gives you a nice throw distance for the up down you need. And the 8-to-1 is very powerful, meaning even when it's really windy, if you want to crank that jib down a little bit when it's fully sheeted on, you have no problem just pulling a little line on and increasing the down, or obviously easing it's easier. And so that's how it works on the inside. And there are other ways to do this, but that amount of purchase is probably what you need. And that's 8-to-1. It comes down, 1-to-1, and has a 2-to-1 to the bulkhead, then do a 4-to-1, and then back up to your sheeting location. And then as you can see, those are individual systems, meaning when you're operating the starboard side inner, you're doing nothing to the port side inner. That's run on its own. So Dog had run a system where you could get them both working together, but it's so complicated. There's so many lines going back and forth, and it basically cuts out the whole bow of the boat. You can't go forward in your boat because there's too much stuff crossing. So this is very clean, and it probably doesn't interfere with some of your other systems very much. The only thing you have to figure out is cleat locations for these lines, so that they're, and who's going to do it. Now on Argyle's boat and on 1481, we have the forward person doing it, and we have all these controls led to them, so they have full control of the jib right there. We have a picture on top again. Maybe we can look at the cleat locations for these lines. I don't know if we have that.
What are you looking for, Madro? Sorry.
That previous shot might show the cleat locations for this inner and outer on Argyle's boat.
Sure, hold on.
Okay, it's hard to see it, but yellow there on the weather side.
Fine tune is here.
That's the inner, and then the one right after it is the outer. So those two are right next to each other, but you kind of need them right next to each other. So you typically are going to, share the load. If you ever sail a bigger boat when you had an outboard lead and you ran the sheet to 2 winches and you kind of on a reach, you can kind of share the load. You can move that lead around. That's the same theory here. So you get full control over, where it goes, and it's very easy. Now, in this, the inner hole is a little farther out than on Ritchie's, but we still have the in-hauler on there. But now, instead of the in-hauler having a tremendous amount of load where it does in the old system, it has 0 load almost. And you can use it just to rock it in a little more if you wanted it 70 mil in or 80 mil in, or if you don't, then you don't have to. It's hardly any load on it and gives you just a little more control. And so we still have that, but I think if you went to a Ritchie style where you put the hole a little farther inboard, you could probably eliminate the in-hauler altogether.
Yeah. Madro, what do you,
Let's
if
go
you're,
to, sorry,
here's
let's go to a
you
shot
guys
of-
sailing. Here's,
Yeah, here's a picture of 1481 with the inner and outer hull in use. So you can see the sail is pretty low to the deck. The clew is not too high over the cabin house. We're sharing the load between, and we have no in-hauler on, and we have complete control of it, which is very nice. And if we could go back to that first shot, we can compare those angles. Before we change the shot, I want everybody to look at how vertical that outboard lead is. And then the inboard is fairly vertical as well. So we have good control of that corner, basically holding it down and in as we want to. Can we go back to that first shot of the Magpie sailing along? There. So this is glue in a very similar spot, but that, if you could get, too bad we can't blow it up, but that in-hauler is pulling the clew in, and it's going straight from the clew to the mast, and then the outboard is going out. So the angles are so different there, and it becomes very difficult to operate, especially as you start to get to the higher wind ranges. You get up to 15 knots of wind. And actually, Benj had so much load on his in-hauler and Corpus that it went through a hole in the deck behind the mast, and that fitting that was in the deck ripped out. It ripped the fiberglass out, not just the bolts, the whole fiberglass around the fitting pulled out and failed. It wasn't strong enough because the load was so high trying to hold it in. So one of these three systems will eliminate this problem and give you ease of sheeting the clew in this new position.
so one thing that people should notice here, this is they probably have their mal up, but take a look at how in the top of this picture, top right corner, how open their leach is for how inboard their clew is. And that's something that if you were to look at a shot of these Australians with the setup and you're kind of back away from them, taking a look at their leach profiles, that's something that we talked about in our last webinar. Is with these new sails, you're sheeted inboard with lots of twist, and the top of the jib is very open, very different from your LM2L. All right, Matt.
That's a great point. And I was sailing with Dirk when I first started sailing with Dirk. I said, Dirk, we got to pull a little in-haul. And he goes, we don't need that. And I go, yeah, when you pull it in here, it goes out at the top. So in-hauling itself twists the sail, but then they've built the sail with more twist. And that top batten is at a portion of the main where it's somewhere just below the insignia. That's kind of the deepest part of the main. So if you don't have the ability to open the sail there, it tends to close the leach off and you have trouble going. So this enables them to keep the boat moving forward nicely, but at a high pointing angle.
Yeah. And, the head stay is a lot straighter. That's why you can't in-haul your LM2Ls, because the head stay is all over the place. If your head stay is too loose and you try and in-haul, you close the slot too much. But as soon as you make the head stay straight now and you make a straighter exit sail, you can in-haul more, ease a little sheets, get it twistier up top, and not really worry about the front part of the sail.
That's a good point. The other big difference of the sail is that it has a much different luff curve than the LM2L. It's much straighter and less luff hollow. So the sail ends up being we actually had to learn a few things different. In the LM2L, you go out in San Diego, you keep some wrinkles in the front of it, especially in light air. Not this other sail. You kind of keep the draft forward and the back straighter, and then you just sheet it on more. It's just a different way. And so it takes some getting used to, and we've been working our way through it, as have a lot of teams. And so, yeah, this is a good shot of the old system on Scott Kaufman's boat. You can see the angle of the in-hauler going almost parallel to the deck, and then the outboard going down, and the geometry is very poor, and the load on the in-hauler is incredible. And it's very hard to sheet it in. It's very hard to make adjustments. And these new systems just make it seamless and gives you full control. And listen, if you put this new system on and you want to put the sail back where you used to have it, it's very easy to do that. So you're not giving anything up, and you've got a new bullet in the gun.
Especially if you have the individualized systems, it's very easy to make the marks the same. If you have the continuous system, then it's easy to get out of whack. But as Madro was saying before, individual system, you just start with it max all the way down, and then you make your marks, kind of as you sail, and you try and make them evenly. But it is very easy to get repeatable settings with this new setup.
Hey, there's one more thing we're going
further
to talk about here,
Okay.
guys. It's very important to have a very good jib halyard system led to the rail as well. You tend to kind of set the jib lead kind of where you want it in and out, and then pretty low. Then you just raise the halyard and slide the jib up the head stay till you get the lead angle you want, instead of doing it the other way, where you set the clue at a certain spot with the jib halyard and then you set your lead. This way you're kind of getting the jib maximum low all the time. And so having a good adjustable jib halyard to the rail that you can adjust is very important to make this thing work right. And we tend to, so this is Scott Kaufman. Why don't we go on to the pictures of Tom's boat or someone else. So we end up sailing with a sail pretty low, a little straighter in the foot than normal. And we use the halyard a lot once we're got the ferrule about where we want it.
So we have Eric back, and Eric and I have done a couple of these webinars now, and we've talked to people about this Australian jib leads and the sails. And I don't know if you caught what Madro has been kind of preaching up to this point, Eric, but what else would you add on to what Madro has been saying? Eric, are you there?
Maybe you got to unmute him.
No, he's unmuted. I think the internet at the loft isn't so good. But, part of this Australian deal is if you
I
get
just
the
unmuted myself.
Okay.
Internet's fine there. I think it's his computer. We can see you, Eric, but we just can't hear him. Maybe he could call in too, eh?
Yeah, maybe Marnie, if you wanted to text him. But
I have been.
at this point, if anybody in the crowd has any questions for Madro or myself, now's the time to ask. But this is a very different way of sailing your Etchells. And, one thing that's important here, guys, is yes, these Australians have been going fast, but there was a regatta in Miami this past winter where the first day it was kind of light air, 8 to 12 knots, kind of similar to San Diego conditions, maybe not quite the swell that we normally get. But Marvin Beckman, who runs the traditional gear, LM2L, LM2H, GM, barely uses any in-haul. Maybe he does a little bit, but he was first to the weather mark in 2 out of the 3 races and was third the other time. So, this isn't a system that you absolutely have to have, but there's definitely a lot of good benefits, especially in flat water. And in breeze, I think it's quite fast, but this isn't to say that the traditional San Diego sails are just getting thrown out the window, because that's just not the case at all. This is just an alternative way of thinking about approaching the Etchells class. Would you agree with that, Madro?
Yeah, I think we certainly saw some conditions where the Australians were killing us. But as we've kind of worked our way through this, we're getting closer and closer. I think we've had some advantages over the traditional setups here and there. But I think you said it very well at the beginning of the last webinar. If you're going to go with this Aussie setup, you got to go all in. You got to get the jib. You got to put the rake in. You've got to get the ability to sheet it how you want. And then you got to play with it and learn it. Or you don't. But I don't think you can just buy the jib and keep your settings the same and sheet it on and see how you go. I don't think that's going to work.
No.
So the tuning and the sales go together, and we have good tuning guides for the traditional setup and now the new setup. And so it's all there for you to experiment with if you want.
Yeah, and obviously with this being a little bit different, if you do get, there have been a few people in the San Diego fleet that have gone ahead and gotten the MAL. If that's the case, contact Madro. Madro changed our jib leads. He's happy to help consult you on how to change your jib leads. I would also look at the Australian Etchells class Facebook page. They have a really good demonstration on how to kind of use your existing system and implement it's basically a step-by-step guide on how to change your jib system without having to scrape the track. And but if you want to do it right, you contact Madro, you contact Eric Champagne, and you try and get these guys to come and take a look at your boat. So that's just my kind of recommendation. I made the call to Madro, and it was an immediate difference. So we're all in on this Australian setup with Argyle, and would encourage you guys to at least take a look at it and contact us if you have any questions.
Super.
So Madro, are you good? You got anything else you want to preach?
Well,
He's in for the trivia now. Come on, Madro, stay with
all right,
us.
let's do some trivia.
All right, Madro, do you have your glass of wine? You said that you were going to drink as soon as it's over. So, I mean, it's trivia time.
I would have to run upstairs, but I'm okay. Here we go.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Madro. Welcome, everyone. Great to see everybody. My gosh, we have Scott Gordon up in San Francisco. Hey, Scott. Good to see you. Mary and Billy, how are those French fries? I think they're enjoying the snack shop being open again. Woohoo! We get food at the club. And great to see Andy Liddell. Thanks for joining us. We hope during the answers, maybe Andy can share some great stories of some of the results you see there. And then at that point, we can unmute you all because I know you're dying to speak, right? Everyone? Yeah, no. Anyway, just to review the rules, you're going to have a minute to answer this question. And it's the honor system, so no Googling. I can see you on your computers. Google, what is, but anywho.
I see you, J.R. Young.
See you, J.R. When you send your answers, because you're muted, right? In the middle of your screen on Zoom, there's a toolbar down below. You can click on chat. Once you open chat, you can see that if you were to send a message right now, it's going to go to everyone. See how that's grayed out there? It says everyone. Click that arrow down and click Marnie. So you're only going to send your messages to Marnie Jenkins. If you want, send me a test right now. I think Scott Gordon's figured it out. Chris Nesbitt's figured it out there. Hi, Xavier, got it. So that's exactly how you want to do it. If you send it as it is right now, as a default to everyone, you've just given everyone the message. So that means you got to buy a round of the drinks in June when we get to racing. How you're going to want to submit your answer is, the sample there is, I ask, what's the tightest, strongest knot in the world, the planet? Bolin is the answer, and my name is Chris Nesbitt. I answered that. So you're going to enter the answer and your name. You know, I don't even need to see your name because you guys all use very similar usernames. I don't see anything they don't know. I don't see like, I'm the world's best sailor at AOL.com. So if your name is in your username, your screen view, don't worry about your name. 1 point for each correct answer. Bonus point if you're the first correct answer that I receive. And the top 3 winners are going to get some prizes. Any questions? Send me a question. Marvin, you can't answer the question. You haven't even seen a question yet.
We already know what his answer to every question is, right?
I'm even going to mute myself in this, so go for it, Alex. Let's do it.
I'll do the timing. And
yeah.
Do you want to, Marnie, do you just want to roll question to question and then save the commentary for later, or do you want to just go question, stop, question, stop?
I'll allow you to just do question minute each one. So just kind of say, we cool, let's roll to the next one.
Okay,
And
great.
then
Well, is
that's our
everybody
time.
ready?
And then we'll open up questions in chat after.
Okay. Okay, is everyone ready? Starting in 3, 2, 1. Geez, I'm blowing it. I'm gonna add time. Okay, what year did Fleet 13 first host the Etchells Worlds in San Diego? And bonus point for who won.
Jesus.
You have 45 seconds to answer. "25 seconds.
I don't know.
15 seconds. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Marnie, did you get everybody's answers? Are you stoked? Can I?
The ones that answered, yep.
Somebody
Okay.
answered to everybody. Somebody answered to everybody.
Nice.
Rich.
Probably was it the
Okay,
wrong? Okay. What did
moving on. Question number 2. Here we go in 3, 2, 1. 1 minute.
Hey, in case people can't see it, you can read the question there too, Al.
Oh, what? Okay. What is the principal constellation of the winter sky in the northern hemisphere? I have no idea. I did not take astrology. 30 seconds. "20 seconds. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Question number 2 is in the books. Moving on. Question number 3. Who is best known as our Fleet 13 founding father? And then there's a bonus point for what was his first Etchells sale number and name. 1 minute and 3, 2, 1. 1 minute. Nadra, do you know the answer to this question?
No, I know all the stuff about Fleet 12, not Fleet 13.
Did you know the one about the Northern Star?
I said Big Dipper. That was a guess. Is the Northern Star?
I have no idea. 30 seconds. I bet you Ivy would know that. Ivy's into the stars. All that time laying on the beach at St. Mary's, looking up.
This would have been, for Fleet 12, would have been Hank Easom. He brought the first Etchells to San Francisco, and it was, I don't know.
10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're done.
Super fun, you guys.
Okay. What?
Super great.
Okay.
Everybody's all over the board. It's interesting, but we got a lot of right
Cool.
answers too.
Which direction does an atmospheric low rotate in the northern hemisphere? 1 minute. I would know the answer to this one, Madro. I'd go
It's-
1
it's
for 10.
50-50, dude. You could get half right for sure.
Forty seconds. $25. Oh man, people are chatting up the regular chat. That's no good. 15 seconds. 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're done. I bet you Andy Liddell got this one right. He's a trivia whiz. I think he's probably 4 for 5. I don't even know what question we're on anymore.
And he got the bonus because he answered first. Good job.
Oh, first is important.
Okay, here we go. Who designed and built the first Etchells, first and last name or nickname? Madro, you got this one for sure, right? I mean,
Yeah, I got this.
I know the answer to this one.
Oh, you got to go fast, though.
50 seconds. His wife won the Star Worlds?
As
That's
his
pretty
crew.
cool.
As his crew. How many
Wow,
wives
that's
crew
super
for their
impressive.
husband in the Star? That is a little different era.
That's crazy.
Well, that's Long Island Sound, too. There's not a lot of wind.
Yeah. 20 seconds. Ten seconds. 5, 2, 1. You're done. Okay. Moving on. Within 50 feet, how long is 1 nautical mile? You got 1 minute. You know this one, Madro?
Not exactly. I got to guess. I got 50-foot of window.
$30 seconds. $15 seconds. 10. 5.
How many feet in a mile?
And of course, Eric Doyle making a comment on Star Worlds. He probably still has the tape in his library. He's watched and dissected every single race of that regatta.
He did, and he let me add that point of trivia in because that's right. The Corinthian trophy at Star Worlds goes from Mary Etchells. It's pretty cool.
Kilo.
Very cool. Okay, here we go. Class legal, what is the max kilograms an Etchells can weigh? Ready to sail, all equipment, excluding sails and crew. You got 1 minute. I don't know this. I know the crew is 627 pounds. But that's not even part of the question, so it doesn't really matter. All I know is I got to weigh 145 pounds. And if I weigh more, Argyle's bombed.
That's small.
Yeah. And Chuck Eaton, he has to weigh like 135 because Jesse's big and Orange
That's
big
the joy
and
of 4
Argyle.
Up, right?
Yeah. Okay, people, you got
Is
5
that time in the
seconds.
sauna?
Yeah. Gotta say, that was a tough one.
Anybody?
Nobody. Good one, Marty.
Who was the first to single-handedly sail around the world, and what year was it? You got 1 minute. I got no idea. Zero clue. Christopher Columbus.
Well, the year
Okay, well,
gets
the
a point.
bonus is an extra point, and it's a range of years because it took longer than a year. But sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Jesus. What year? I don't know.
1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Something like that, right? You got 13 seconds. Five seconds. And you're done. Oh, wait. Okay. Who is this the last one, Marnie? Who cares? Who's won the most Etchells World Championships as a skipper? I know this one. 3, 2, 1, boom. He gave an exhilarating talk at the Etchells Nationals this year. Thirty seconds. Oh, shoot. Sorry. Oh, I'm screwing this up. Oh, no. Ten seconds. And okay. Some of you guys have probably already seen this one. During a normal one design weekend, you are in the zone of the top mark. You foul another competitor. How many turns should you do?
We would hope everyone gets this.
Yeah. If not, we've let you down. That's our fault.
Nice, Summer.
That would be the right move,
30.
Summer. Yeah, just a little do-si-do on the aft deck, get back in there and keep going.
20 seconds. I need to get better at my cadence. I was a little bit more regimented in the beginning. All right, bonus question for 3 points. Name one of us that has taken their Etchells sailing since the bay has opened back up.
Summer.
Well,
Your mic's on, hon.
Oh, sorry.
this is hard for people that live in Seattle.
You mean you're not hanging out at San Diego Yacht Club every day, trying to keep an eye on who's going out sailing?
I went down there for a few days and it was closed. You couldn't go out.
I've been sailing my Layman 12 a lot here in Newport Beach.
I understand they're getting that going outside the San Diego Yacht Club as well.
Yeah, 20 seconds. We got 25 boats at our class championship last fall, which is major improvement. 10 seconds. And
Nice, everyone. I love it. Poor Rich Reinhardt in Colorado is like, has anybody seen my boat? The bees have. No, I'm kidding.
That would be wasps.
The wasp. You're good, Rich. We miss everyone for sure. So that was the bonus round. I was rattling off answers as they came in correctly to my hubby, Charlie. So we're going to tally these up. I may not have the results tonight during the Zoom call, but I'll post them on Facebook and I'll send them to everyone. But there were some hilarious ones and good replies. Thank you. I think Nesbitt just said if I fouled him, I got to do 3 turns. Whatever. So I think the next slide probably is just the warning that you're about to click and show all the answers, but you can show everybody all the answers now if we want. And this is where maybe we can, Eric, hopefully he had some great stories, but we can unmute Annie Ladow here, or anybody get into the chat and let me know if you've got some great stories. Even Billy Hardesty, when Eric and I were reviewing the questions, or I was asking about the founding fathers, and I even called Annie Ladow and Jim Reynolds. So we would have accepted any of those answers, but it was great to see so many Munster names out there. But I called Jim, and asked him for sure what the sail number was and the name of the boat. So that's official, 553 MoFo. A few of you did get that. Bonus point.
What was Dr. Rohde's first name? I just remember.
I can't remember.
Peter.
Peter Rohde. And then
Brad's dad.
And then he told a story about, because we were in question if it was going to be 295, but that was Jim and Norm's boat, and it moved around a lot. But Eric told this fantastic story. Maybe you know it. No, Billy knows it. Where's Billy? We got to unmute everybody. And it was where Dennis was getting all upset because Billy was beating him with Chris Bush and somebody else in 295.
Billy's in.
Etchells.
No, gonna tell everyone.
We can't have a regatta, so we have
He had to go get his nose patched up.
I didn't know you wanted to.
So what do you think of the questions?
What year are you talking about?
It was you racing in
Yeah.
295,
We haven't hung out.
and Chris was upset that you were doing so well with the new sales.
No.
Where's Billy? He has to remember this. You got a new nose.
Who, Billy?
95. Which bill are you talking about?
Hardesty.
Can Can they hear you?
We can hear
Oh, they can hear
Billy.
me. How did my microphone get turned on? Shit.
Everybody is unmuted.
Oh, yay.
Andy, I like your stash. You're looking good, dude.
You, buddy.
Miss you, man.
Somewhere, right?
All right, Billy, let's see. I can't unmute him. Let me.
13 bucks,
There we are.
There you are. Okay.
but generic.
Bill in here at the yacht club.
All right, tell me the story about Dennis. He loaned you 295 with Chris Bush, and you were doing really
No,
well.
wrong bill. Wrong bill. 295. I would have been like 10 less.
I was gonna say.
Andy, do you remember who was with them?
Well, Bill Bennett. So
Oh, was
295.
it Billy Bennett?
Yeah, 295 was
Billy
was
would've-
literally the girl that got around. She was the
Son
intro
Andy.
boat for many of sailors in the. It's actually the very first Etchells I sailed
Yes,
on
I
it
did.
for Norm and Jim Reynolds in the early '80s on that boat, and then for a time there, a couple seasons, Peter Burton, Chris Bush. I don't know if Chris is on the call, and Bill Bennett sailed that boat.
Hey.
She was remembered for her oozing keel sores in her later years.
295 must have been built in about 1976.
I think she may have been dressed at Driscoll's too, as well.
Where all the good Etchells were made.
Was that Basura? Was 295 Basura?
P. Yes. Not sure where she is now. We all
Possibly the Basura.
Raise your hand if you'd already graduated from high school in 1976. Not very many.
All right, well, Charlie, and maybe Summer can chime in. I can unmute her and Ian. But what is the status? I mean, we can all go out and sail our boat. A lot of you answered the question correct. We all know Summer has taken her boat out. Charlie and I even took it out one night too. Thank you, Summer. And then Chris Snow.
Chris and Mary Snow were out sailing on Tuesday.
Correct, yeah. And then Dave Weisenhunt and JR and
Right.
Sasha took theirs out as well. But what's the deal? When do you see any light yet?
So I talked with a couple of the board members today. Nobody's willing to prognosticate because nobody really knows. But right now, it's still just household members. Doesn't have to be family, but people that you're living with, and no gatherings. So that's kind of the ruling parameters. There you go. So
All right.
nobody knows when that's going to change.
All right, well, I'm gonna unmute Summer here as our sail fleet captain. Maybe she's got some news from either the board or the bay.
So I have similar information from Charlie, but I literally hung up with the Commodore 5 minutes before this call started. There will be a letter that many of you will get that's coming out Monday, where the board says you can't do anything. That's pretty much what it's going to say. It sounds very negative, and I told them they wanted me to send it out as sail fleet captain. So you guys know my volunteer position this year at the club as sail fleet captain is basically the volunteer that does Jeff Johnson's job, but I'm the volunteer person, so I help coordinate calendars from a volunteer perspective and all that stuff. So the board sent me this very formal letter that they wanted me to sign and send out, and I said I'm not going to send this out because it sounds mean and sad, and I don't want to be mean and sad. So there's a formal letter coming from the board that sounds mean and sad. The informal message is Myself and Jeff Johnson are pushing like hell to convince the board that we should be doing some informal race your family, race the clock,
Yeah.
race something kind of stuff, and we're working on that. The informal message that I will tell you is the Sabbats, the Layman, the Kites, the Finns, and the CR914s are all informally racing. So I asked the board if they wanted me to call those fleets and say, stop all racing. And they said, no, whatever those fleets do, they can do. We just want to make it clear that San Diego Yacht Club is not sanctioning racing. So that's where it currently stands. We're going to try, as San Diego Yacht Club, to get kind of a hot rum style, race your family, PHRF, or a pursuit start kind of race going in the next, I'm hoping 4 weeks. I'm pushing them for 4 weeks. So sometime in June, a race your family event, and we'll see where it goes from there. I'll go back on mute now. Bye.
Sorry, everyone. I was muted. Thank you, Summer. That was great. Sad, but great news. Why don't we all just, Scott Gordon, can we head up to San Francisco with our boats? I've sailed up there in an Etchells. It was fun.
You went swimming, didn't you?
Trying to unmute him.
Scott, you're muted.
I'm trying to unmute him. Here you go. Charlie, my assistant, could unmute Scott Gordon. There you go,
I
Scott.
can do it.
Tell us what you're doing up there.
There's a lot of background. I'll try. I think we should all go out and sail and do a rapid start. You know, the likelihood of getting a virus from another Etchells is limited.
Okay, you got a bad connection. All I heard was virus from another Etchells. With that, I get it.
Got the gist.
He just said there's not too many Etchells sailing in the bay anymore.
Oh yeah, because Jeff, you're up that way, right?
A virus from
I used to be there.
Jeff?
Yeah, they don't have a very active fleet in San Francisco anymore. They get 3 to 6 boats out a weekend or 2 a year. They're having a hard time doing it. Ethan Doyle's been kind of spearheading it, and it's sadly really fallen off. But some of the boats are coming to San Diego.
Yeah. I know Eric's headed up to the bay to sail some NARS this next week, but not at Etchells. Hey, Rich Reinhardt in Colorado, what do you sail?
So the Dillon Yacht Club's going to try to run a summer series, 6 weekends, essentially every 2 weeks, starting June 13th, 14th. No social events. Show up at the club, launch your boats, get on your boats, go race, get off your boats, put your boats away, and go home.
And that's Etchells, eh?
No gathering, nobody going into the clubhouse, nobody having a beer together, nothing. And they're going to try to run 6 weekends between June 13th and 14th, and September like 10th and 12th or 10th and 11th or something.
And that's in the Etchells, correct? Because you've got your boat here and there.
Yacht Club One Design Weekend. So they're One Design Weekend. So they're Etchells, Stars, Ensigns, J24s, and J22s.
Well, there you go, folks. If anybody wants a road trip, head out to Lake Dillon. I hear it's great. Chris Snow.
There might be extra
there a
boats.
lot.
Know somebody and you say, anybody got a J22 we can borrow? I've got a crew, will come up and we'll go race a weekend. That's possible, or any one of those other fleets. There's boats available. If somebody said, let's take a flyer and go to Colorado, that's possible.
Yeah.
Even I think there might be an extra Etchells that somebody wanted to come up and race in Etchells for a weekend and just get out of California or wherever you are. It's possible.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
It sounds awesome. And again, we can sail here perhaps with just your immediate family. I know that doesn't help because we don't all sail with family, but it is a kind of a fun time to get out and practice. Charlie made me drive the Etchells. Summer was happy to see that, but not me. But yeah, as soon as we can, we'll get out there and maybe it's just rabbit starts like Scott Gordon is saying there. That's perfect. But we just have to wait for the all okay from our local authorities, and let's all play well and play with this. And maybe that means sooner we'll be out there then.
We do a thing in Colorado on Thursday nights where you go out and whatever boats are out there that want to go out, you go out and you practice starts. You just practice starts. So guys go out, they drink beer and practice starts. And you'll get maybe 10, 12, 14 boats, different classes. And you start all the boats together. So it's just a way to get out in the boats and not, leave them sitting on the hard.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I see Nesbitt's wanting to say something. I could just tell, but I can't unmute him. I think you muted yourself, son.
Try again.
Sorry, I'm snorting. But anybody else got anything? I think we could wrap it up. I will post the results. Charlie's still adding them all up over here.
I think Chris was on the.
And I'm sorry we lost Eric tonight because he had some good stuff and only he can deliver them to y'all. But that's it. Unless anybody.
Marnie, before we go, I just want to say thanks so much. Marnie was really the prime mover on this evening. It's great to have a little connection with our fleet. Great job. Some interesting things and a little bit of fun, and hopefully we'll all be out there down at the hoist and in the water and out on the water soon. But I just want to say thanks, Marnie.
Thank you,
And
Charlie.
thanks, Jeff, for your time.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, Jeff, and everybody else at North.
Thank you, Jeff. And Marnie, thanks for including Scott and I. That was nice.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. We miss you guys.
Hi, Scott.
Pictures. Everybody smile.
All right.
Cheers.
Thanks, everyone. That was a fun week.
Cheers.
Hey, Jeff, thank you very much
Well.
for your comments. Really good. Thank you, Jeff.
Happy to help, guys
Appreciate it. Thank you.
and girls.
Aloha.
Thank you, Alex. Where did my Alex Curtis go? Did he jump off?